Hello, everyone. Welcome to my very first stream with Overcat. My name is Bobby, and so nice to see all of you. Well, I'll see some of you. I'm gonna start out. I wrote an article last week about best ball. I'm gonna use some of the ideas, and I'm gonna show off some of the strategies and some of the free tools I created to draft a team today. Um, so I'm really excited to do this. I am a teacher, and I finally have a break, which means I can stream. And I've been meaning to stream, so really excited to. Let's get started. Like I said last week, I worked on this big article. It's this idea I've been kind of working on for I'd say 2 years, honestly. I really implemented it towards the end of last year as a strategy in my best ball betting. Last year I had a team that made the DK Millie Maker Finals, came 115th. Was Lad McConkey, Justin Herbert, fingertip touchdown, multiple bonuses for both of them. Would have happened if this happened, and I would have gotten 50th, I think, or top 50. But still really happy. It was really cool to make it. Last year was my first year of real high volume. I'd done best ball a couple years. This is my fourth season, maybe fifth season doing it. I just love fantasy. And so a lot of people, when it comes to best ball, they are always like, yo, week 17 is all that matters. And of course it matters for win the big bucks, but you still have to get there. And so I'd been developing this strategy last year where I realized that you can really focus on week 17 correlation, but still kind of backstack that and get week 15 and 16 correlation. And so if you pick the right guys, during the year, right? Hopefully they would be the right guys during the playoffs. That doesn't always happen. I wrote this article. There's the piggy bank, all the money that you're assuredly going to be winning if you follow that. Kind of the article, and this is the team I had that last year, 115th. So Justin Herbert was actually my quarterback who placed for me that day, even though it had Josh Allen, but Josh Allen went nuclear in the playoffs, so would not get there with Josh Allen. Bucky was my only good week 17 running back, which is unfortunate because when you see the rest of this team, got Rico Dowdle though, Devontae Smith, Ricky Pearsall is only useful week. You picked the right time. Lad McConkey, like I said, earlier, he would have gotten a touchdown and he would have gotten, I think, a couple of bonuses. So put him up like to the 40-point area with that. And Herbert would have gotten him up to like the 35-point area. Brock Bowers, who carried me a lot of the season with this team, as you'll see, but he did okay in the playoffs or in week 17. He didn't kill you. Jameson Williams, and I also had Amon Ra St. Brown, who was like my next. I had like three people who didn't make my lineup that scored in the top. That scored 20 points, which is kind of frustrating when you think about it, because like I'm better off in a world where those players score nothing, right? Because these are the ones that made my lineup. But you know, if finals was like you add all 20 slots, I did have a couple of dead roster slots, which I'll show in a second, but like I think I might have even done better than that, and because I picked a lot of the right players, but it wasn't just picking the right players. I picked the right players that had a lot of correlation, and so I'm going to go through it. Basically, my idea is you can create where are these correlation trees where you can kind of look who's facing who in week 17, and you can kind of backstack and fill your roster with these 15, 16 correlations. I'm sure some of you are already doing that, but maybe I'm encouraging you to do it more. Maybe the goal of a pick doesn't always have to be that correlates with week 17. It could correlate with something else. And so one strategy I've been implementing recently in some of my drafts is to have like a hero team. So like if I have a main team I'm focusing on. So let's just say it's um who's a good example? We'll say the Chargers, who in my kind of to me are a really good team to target because they have a really good best ball playoff schedule. You could target week 17 where they're against Houston, or maybe you go CD Lamb and you get Lad McConkey, and all of a sudden you have week 16 correlation with those two, and that's pretty cool, in my opinion. So this is kind of the basic idea, and this is my team from last year. So every player except for Brock Bowers stacked with someone else on my team, which is nice. So Justin Herbert faced the Bucks week 15, Denver week 16. And then so yeah, Josh Allen and here I had, as you can see, Bucky Irving correlated every week. All my Tampa Bay people were correlated every week, which was really nice. But just basically, I had correlation all over the place. In week 15, I had 65% of my roster correlated, 60%, and then 50% for week 17. So and that game, the theory behind correlating really saw itself in week 17 for me, right? Like if Ricky Pearsall and Jameson Williams and St. Brown all popped off, right? In a world where I don't have Devontae Smith, all of a sudden those are like all of those players make my roster. And so the theory behind it makes a lot of sense, right? Bucky was great. Jalen McMillan was actually pretty good in week 17. He scored. So, in a world where Jatavian Sanders was a little more important to the team last year, or in a world where is this the team? No, I didn't have Chuba Hubbard on this team. My dream and the funniest pick to me is Will Disley, because he had a couple of weeks like post week 12 where like he was like, "Hey, should you add him on your roster?" And so I was like maybe one of two people that had Will Disley on their team in the finals. And so I was like, how funny would it be if Will Disley's the reason I won a lot of money? But he wasn't. But that's okay. So yeah, this is kind of my idea. And as you can see with some like unnecessarily complicated graphs, you can kind of correlate all of your players. So this is a hypothetical for this year for round 20, and this is a correlation for round um, 30, which round 30, DraftKings when you have 20 rounds. So yeah, so that's the kind of the basic premise of it. So I'm going to show you the two tools I created that I kind of that help me, and they're free, so you can use them yourself. I There are a lot of great tools out there that are paid, and if you want to support those creators, I totally get that. I encourage you to do that. But if you want to try something different, so this is let me share this. So this is my tool that I created. I'll post a link at some point in the video. I'll post probably once I start drafting. I'll post all these links for those who are interested. And in the save video, it'll be in the description. So here it has your the players, the rankings. The rankings are from the 15th, so I will try to update those probably at the end of the week. It's my first week of summer break, so I'm gonna do some stuff, but I'm not gonna get too crazy. So what I love about this tool, this is something I created with the help of generative AI, but it works, and that's what matters. So let's just say I get the first pick. I pick Jamar Chase, and it will show me all my stacking options, and it will and in ADP order, and it'll also show me all of my correlation options between week 15 and 17. So the idea behind this is most people really are focusing on week 17. I'm saying you should kind of focus on it all. I think it's possible, and I've done this a few times, where every single pick is not like Brock Bowers on my team last year, where every single pick is correlated to something within that 3 week block. And to me, like in the way that I'm thinking about building teams, it makes things more unique, right? Yesterday in a draft, I took Jamar Chase, but then on the turn I took Trey McBride and Lamar Jackson. Now this was on DraftKings, so I feel a little more comfortable not having the wide receiver firepower. But all of a sudden, like I'm now correlating Jamar Chase's week 17 and week 16, whereas a lot of people want to double stack, or maybe get Harrison and McBride, or they might get T. Higgins there, Chase Brown. But basically, it allows me, and if I wanted to, I could do Tyreek. I think that makes a lot of sense. Sorry, I said Baltimore week 15, week 14, right? But in a world where let's just say you start Jamar Chase, McBride, Lamar Jackson, and then you get Jalen Waddle at the 4-5 turn. I think he goes there, right? Or you can get him there. All of a sudden, with Jamar Chase, who is the number one pick, you're saying, I want a piece of Jamar Chase every single week in the playoffs, right? And that's just like, you know, if we think about players going hot, right, getting really hot, why wouldn't you want them their matches and correlation? I think a lot of people would just really focus on the week 17 game, and like, what if that's the game that game doesn't pop off, right? But Jamar Chase is the guy you need in weeks 15 and 16. We've seen that all the time. Jamar Chase of so many players can be that guy. That's why he's the number one pick. So over here, this tool. So this honestly, this tool I think works best in slow drafts. And what's cool is like you make a copy and you can make a bunch of copies, save it in a thing. If you're a person who's like, I want to do this, but I'm kind of scared to do it unless I feel really confident I'm using all the information at my disposal, then I think a slow draft is helpful, and a tool like this is really helpful because it just you get a lot of choices. A bit harder in a slow draft. I'll show you a fast draft. I'll show you the tool I use in fast drafts that is a little bit easier and also helps me decide who to target for teams. But as you fill this out, let's just say I go to round two, and let's just say I do the thing that I mentioned. So let's just say I go Lamar, and let's just say I'm on underdog, so I don't feel as comfortable going. I don't go as comfortable feeling Cincinnati, right? Or sorry, Arizona. Getting McBride there. Harrison, I usually don't want to pick at the 2-3 turn. I want to pick him if he falls later. That's just how I like drafting him. You do what you want to do. And so now all of a sudden I have these players, and now I have these have changed to green because now I own players on their teams. But now all of a sudden I have these stacking options throughout. And as you are doing this, this gives you different players that you can potentially target. Now, don't just like I'm gonna click the next lane. Like you still have to pick the right players. You still have to have good construction. But this to me is just like an added level of like who are the right players. My team last year was very fortunate. A lot of those players now are weak, are uh, like picks in the third round and above, right? Like, there's a bunch of those players now on that team last year, and that happened to be a team I picked all the right people or a lot of the right people. But on top of that, they had the right correlation that allowed me to get, 115th, out of 880,000 people. So I was really proud of that team and really kind of proud of this. And so you can have your own. This isn't the exact version because as you can see, I've labeled it. I'm going to use this tool as if I can. Might be hard to do both. Maybe I'll share my window, which I think is a little less clean for streaming purposes. But and let's just say you want to delete that, and then just click the delete button and it goes away. So this tool also super great in for redraft. If you want to do redraft, I still think in redraft targeting week 15, 16, 17 correlation is not a bad idea with your early picks, especially your later picks you're less likely to have them the whole season, but with your early picks, like it's the same premise, like for trying to get big scores in best ball, we still want best big scores in fantasy. Again, I think in a redraft that takes much less importance, but it's something to think about. All of these things are things that are affect the outcome, right? Could be very, very small, but some, you know, um, everything added together can have this huge, massive impact. So all right. So I've talked. Oh, let me show you. I'm going to show you one last tool, and then we'll get to drafting, which is what everyone wants to see on these streams and on these streets. So let me remove that. Back to me. Hello, I'm big. So oops, I want to remove that. Sorry, it's my first time using StreamYard in like over a year. I last year streamed during cricket during the World Cup, and I randomly it was on my Omnisports account, which is you can see my logo up there and up here. Shout out Omnisports. That's more of my like story based and talking overcat where I'm at right now. I want it to be my fantasy specific stuff, especially since a lot of it's betting related. And I feel like those who watch sports for stories are not always those who watch it for betting. I'm both, so I'll do both, but I don't necessarily. I don't want to fracture or confuse the YouTube algorithm because it is very very sensitive. All right, so the last thing I wanted to show you, this is the tool I use to target teams in correlation. So this is in my order. You could create your own, and I encourage you to do so. This is not the best. I did a lot of stuff manually. I made this last year. Um, I made this tool last year. The tool that I just showed you, I made for this year. Now that I trust a little more that my idea works because it won me some money. It's funny how that makes you trust something. It wins you money, it gives you money, you're gonna trust it. So uh, basically, what I did here is I picked teams. I ranked all the teams. These all had numbers here, but then I was trying to fix this, and then it like the numbers are throwing it off, and then I should have kept them because I didn't end up fixing it. I might this might get updated to auto populate numbers, but for offensive rating changes. So I found a list of people I trusted. This was like a month ago. Sorry, my cat just locked herself in here. She she ran and slammed the door by accident. You're stuck in here with me, Mushy. Yeah, that's right. She's a little freaked out. Okay, let me go open the door for her. But you can look at this list right now. This is the list of teams in order for for my preferences is uh, of course she does. That's literally the first time she's ever done that. And of course it's while I'm streaming. I think the last time I streamed, there was like construction going on in my complex. The time before, my dogs just they lost their shit because Amazon drivers and people exist. How dare mailmen? Anyway, so basically, what I did, the premise behind this tool is that I want good offenses facing good offenses because I want explosions. I want big numbers, right? I want all that good stuff. And so I added basically with each team, you add the offenses they're facing and the offense of the team itself, right? Because the team itself is a thing. Probably you want to like weight this. You should probably weight the offense that of the main team a little bit higher. I'm not really doing that here because I'm kind of viewing them as each unique games. But when targeting these teams, and then I also included weather. Based, it was kind of vibes based how I felt about the weather when I did this. I don't know if it would, but basically, I came to that the Chargers and Lions are the best two teams to target. Chargers, they have good matchups in domes against potentially already a good offense and two offenses we expect more from this year. They have the Lions who lots of good weather games. Unfortunately, they face the Steelers, but Steelers are low owned, and so what I like about this is let's just say I'm drafting Jameer Gibbs in the first round. Okay, maybe in the second round, this is probably not the best example, but maybe in the third round, right, I try to get Devonte Adams or Kyron Williams, right? If I want to hit that, and then maybe I get Addison later or Jones, Hawkinson, and then all of a sudden maybe I'm like, oh, let me get Caleb Johnson. Let me prioritize him over some of the other rookies in that area. What I really like about this is it kind of helps you break ties in ways that might be different than how you would do with your player takes. I think that player takes matter a lot, and I like to think I'm good at them, but I think we overrate how good player takes are when it comes to um, you know things working out. Um, for example, Brock Bowers was on my team last year, but he actually was not very good in the playoffs. I got carried a lot by like Josh Allen having like a 40-point game and like a really like I didn't mention like you might have saw it, but like a Devon A. Chan who popped off. I had a James Cook who popped off in a couple like so there was a lot of like Brock Powers made it on my like carried me probably to the playoffs. He didn't carry me in the playoffs. He didn't really hurt me in the playoffs. One week he did, if I remember correctly. I all my teams that could have made finals had Brock Bowers. So week 16, where he didn't, if I remember, he didn't do so great. Oh, heartbreaking. If he got like two more passes, I actually would have had a team make it in Best Ball Mania and another team make it in DraftKings. But it's okay. It's the sport we play, and this is why I learned last year for the first time is like maybe be the person who checks at the end of the week. So you can't lose hope if you never have it. But basically, I like to use this tool. I draft players and then kind of see you can make your own version of this. I encourage you to, as all the teams here. But this is like who I'm targeting. As of course, I'm generally targeting good offenses. Now, I know some of you might be like, don't we want to target like teams with bad defenses? And while I do think that's true, I think for fantasy relevant situations, you want both sides to blow up. And a really great example last year is that Justin Herbert led McConkey. Both made my lineup, but both were sat like early in the fourth that game or maybe late in the third because the Patriots were up by like, it was like the final was 41-17. And so I picked like the right players. The process was great, but because they were facing such a lopsided like Patriots team, which we knew at the time that we knew they were going to be bad. There's a reason I didn't correlate any Patriots on that team last year. Um, was I didn't pick anyone last year except Drake May and like three quarterback builds sometimes. So you can see that just targeting like bad defenses isn't always the best. You want lots of good stuff. And but even then, if you want that, just draft the Bengals. They face relatively good offenses, and they're in a good environment, and their defense is terrible. But of course, you could consider your own different factors. These are just things I look at. These it's just shorthand that I use during a fast draft. So these are the two tools I use during drafts. So I think it's time. We've done lots of talking. I think let's do a draft. If we have any preference between underdog or DraftKings, let me know as I sit and ponder my hiccups. All right. What we'll do is I'll get them both, and whichever one happens faster will be the winner. This is not this. I'm having you two sites compete over me. Yes. If you want my attention, if you want my money, please. I do understand. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. We got three and DraftKings waiting. So if anyone wants to join, it in a $20, $25, sorry, $20 DraftKings. We're gonna see about Best Ball Mania. And we'll get one fast one here. Imagine, I wish you could like stream a slow draft. That'd be somehow cool. That's just all right. We all right, sorry, that's me reacting to oh no. Okay, we have made a big goof and both filled at the same time. So let me well, underdog technically did first and it's faster, and then maybe we'll hop onto the DraftKings. So I'll do both. You will only see one. Sorry, just getting it. Underdog. There we go. All right, so underdog. We got the fourth position. Have my rankings here. Probably my most controversial ranking is I don't have Justin Jefferson super high. I mean, I have him in the top six. Honestly, I think pretty much all, 2 through 6 are interchangeable. I'm so happy to have any of them on my teams. And I say that he goes first. So thank you. Thank you. I'm saying thank you because I wasn't going to pick him. Well, I might have. Is my first stream draft ever a Saquon team? Am I that basic? Yes, I am. I generally, I like the hero RB approach this year. Last year I was doing it a little bit, but I wish I did it more. Obviously, with how it worked out. But I do love my wide receivers. So, um, and then, like I said, I will be simultaneously doing DraftKings draft because I couldn't withdraw fast enough. This is first world problems. You're stuck in two drafts at once. Let's see. Let's do the draft board. That's probably prettier to look at. Yes. All right, let me change. That's the stuff. Yeah, we don't no light mode here. I try to do a lot of things in dark mode. My website is in dark mode, which led to the graph. The graph I have in that article, or the like table. I changed the color in Google Docs because basically I finish it in Google Docs, then I put it into the website and format it. I had to change it on the Google Docs to white font so that when I imported it, it was legible on the website. But then the problem was in the email to subscribers, it was in white font. So if you, I'm so sorry if you are an email subscriber to the website, and then all of a sudden it was like, here's the table, and you can't see it. It was just like, oh no, like that was the thing I worked the hardest on for that article, and in the email you can't see it, but that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. So, um, but I'm excited. Excited to see how this team plays out. So, if we're thinking about the Eagles, like I said, I like looking. I won't be able to show because I'm just sharing a tab rather than the whole window. But the Eagles face the Bills, Commanders, and Raiders. So I would love Brock Bowers to come back here. That would make me very, very happy. But let me click some names because I'm gonna definitely auto draft someone that I don't mean to. I just know that I'm going to do that. All right, my other draft, we got CD first. All right, we got. Okay, I'm not gonna be too crazy yet, but I think Lad McConkey is the last wide receiver of this tier, so I want to get it. And I'm not just biased because I showed you a team that he was on that he helped me do well. I promise. So also, like I said, because the Chargers are high in how I view it, I love adding the Chargers. I love adding Lad because I really like his playoff schedule. Of course, the worry about Lad is he could get hurt, but I see no reason why he couldn't be this team's Keenan Allen and just PPR scum his way to a really good season. Maybe not as helpful on underdog with half PPR scoring, but I he might get a few more touchdowns. I expect the offense to be more productive this year. They have better weapons overall. So, and I think second year coaching, I think actually having a running game, J.K. Dobbins was effective ish. Um, okay, so if he's here, yes, I'm gonna pick Adams. I really like Adams. I think if there is any team this year to kind of do what the Dolphins did a few years ago with Waddle and Tyreek, where they were first and seventh, I think it's the Rams. I think you could have again kind of a PPR scummy kind of not Waddle, Puka situation, and then you could have like big play Devonta situation. And I think they play different enough. And I thought Adams was like one of the most owned players last year in best ball finals because he had like the biggest or second biggest game for wide receivers in week 16 last year. So, he's really, really productive. And I could see Stafford, maybe he won't hyper target him like Rodgers would. But, Adams is getting that with Garrett Wilson. So it wasn't like there was no competition in that offense. And I think Puka's just good. So I'll get off of that soapbox. Let's see how my other team is doing. It's weird being on two drafts that are two different clocks because underdog is 20 and then draftkings is 30 seconds, but I was too slow on that withdrawal. 100% my fault. And I have in the back, just let me know who's your favorite player to draft this year. I think my most owned player right now is Matthew Golden in terms of ownership. Was for a while Garrett Wilson, but then everyone was kind of like he's the worst pick in the second round, and I was like, I don't agree with that. Or the third round, I don't agree with that, but everyone's saying it, so it makes me scared. And then when a lot of people are saying it, then he's going to drop. So you but Garrett Wilson last year had his best season ever as a pro, and we're drafting him the lowest we've ever drafted him since he was a rookie. That just seems a little weird to me. Um, And even if Justin Fields can't produce a lot of volume, I think all of it's going to go to Garrett Wilson, who just signed a huge contract. That's just me. Um, I don't feel ballsy enough to take Rashi. Okay, do I want? Not really doing much correlation, like I said I would. But honestly, like I feel like early in the draft, obviously there's some really nice correlation. Like, I might, if like somehow James Cook was still there, I'd probably take him to get that, that Buffalo. Um, there's not really any good, the Rams. Like I could take the I just just like kind of a weird spot for correlation. But like I said, I don't think you need a forced correlation, but I really love doing this like for my dart throws. So I'm sure all of us like I have like 10 to 15 round 18 to 20 picks on DK that I like doing. So I choose which dart throws to do based off of correlation most of the time. All right. Do we go for this Super Eagle stack? Well, nope. I mean, there's no reason to because Hertz was drafted a while ago. Yeah, I didn't think Hertz would get to me. Okay. Okay. Is it time for? I think it's some. Okay. I think we're gonna get some correlation here with pet. All right. Cool. So now this is kind of what I like to do. Maybe at this point in the draft is I'll start filling my roster. So let's get Buffalo. And like, if you wanted to like, do a bunch of like kind of faster drafts at once and like if you have the right thing set up. Eagles. If I'm only got Saquon, I'm gonna assume Saquon's the guy on the Eagles. That's what this team is telling me. Okay, Chargers. Typing their names correctly would help. Um, I love Herbert. I'm gonna try not to draft him just because he is my most drafted quarterback, and it's not so much a Herbert take; it's a Chargers playoff schedule take. Um, even though again Herbert was on my finals team last year. That was more of a reflection of Vlad than it was of Herbert, in my opinion. And let's see. So Carolina, who do you play? I know these. Oh, Seahawks stat. I already see. I knew it. I mentioned it earlier. Um, I've been kind of like the last couple of days, like, what if Sam Darnold's like actually not terrible? Like, what if we're freaking ourselves out? Because like, yeah, he had a couple bad games last year, but like the Vikings were really good last year. As a like they were productive, like the analytics, like from what I've seen, like also kind of support like a hey, okay, cool. Always, I make the mistake, especially last year before you can organize it, of like just putting a lot of people in my queue and then like accidentally drafting the wrong person all the time. Did that literally all the time, but it's okay. Okay, so we got this is probably gonna be a 5 or 6. I tend to be a little more robust than running back. Part of it is like I will make sure I have like a pretty good um, wide receiver situation if I can help it. Okay, we'll just add the Falcons. So like here, like this is where I like adding in if it makes sense. Do I want Kyle Pitts? I never want Kyle Pitts, so I never click it, even if I'm going for correlation. Okay, I think we do we want to buy just I have a Matthew Golden problem. And for me, it's just like, I don't know, the Packers like for the first time ever use a first round. Like Love last year was not productive, but he also got like pretty badly hurt. Week 3 he was out for a few weeks. And Josh Jacobs was able to do a lot. If Jordan Love isn't hurt, like, and he takes a step forward, I just think there's a lot of opportunity there. All right, for our next pick, hopefully we can get Shakir, get some correlation. Shakir is also like kind of like a nice pick with these two like these two rookie players who will maybe start slow and kind of pick up. Adams is in a new situation, but I could see him starting strong. Okay. If I wasn't so worried about correlation, I would definitely pick Diggs here. I think he's like I think with that personality type, when you can have like a revenge season, like I think of like Randy Moss, like Patriots like year. Everyone's like, oh, he's washed because he like didn't care where he was, but like what if he's like, screw y'all? I'm in my like I'm on a boat. I'm doing things with people and drugs and I'm gonna do drugs and then 3 days later I'm gonna be doing like cuts better and route running than like all the other wide receivers on my team. I don't know if I'm Drake May, I'd be like, okay, I'll pass it to you. Like I'll pass it to you, Diggs. Like that's just me. Um, all right, what do we want here? Um, 10 picks away. I've also completely forgotten about my other drafts. So let's see who we have. Okay, we have Josh Allen, CD Lamb, Drake London, and Rashi Rice. Okay, let me just add some players to the queue so I don't draft another quarterback. Honestly, I know this sounds terrible. I don't recommend accidentally auto drafting, but it creates a fun and interesting challenge for yourself. Okay, I would love a world where Mooney falls here. Get that Adams correlation. And then like okay, so we got Lad. Let me add my quarterbacks. That's another thing I'm trying to get better on because I'll sometimes forget quarterbacks exist, and all of a sudden it's like round 12, and I'm like, what? Oh goodness, how I can't correlate. Um, but honestly, this draft I have a lot of quarterbacks. It's really interesting. I feel like not intentionally, my drafts will either be like a bunch of teams. I want none of you. Okay. I'll do it. This is tough. Okay, we'll let the Coleman pick happen. Or no, we should have gotten Trey Harris there, and then you can really double dip on the Herbert thing. Even though I told you that's what I'm trying to avoid doing. Uh yeah, so I guess the idea without Allen is like in that game, like Allen's not the best quarterback, but it's still useful pieces. Also, like you have two good pieces on like the like MVP winning offense last year. Like that's probably not too bad of a thing for your fifth and sixth wide receiver. Like I'm not losing best ball mania because I accidentally took two bills. Like if that's the reason I lose, like probably all my teams with Josh Allen and which feel like I have a lot of Josh Allen teams. The one like and I have a lot of Jaden Daniels teams just because I'm so tempted when I'm like, I could stack one. But I still get Trey Harris, he falls here. So we're gonna definitely pick Herbert. Um, I told you I was trying to avoid Herbert, but maybe it makes sense that my first stream draft is very quintessential, Bobby over cat draft. So we're gonna start looking at tight ends too in a second. Um, let's see. Far away is Herbert. Let me do this by ADP. My own rankings, which I need to fix. There's a couple players I just like forgot because I did it manually. I know that you could do it with a spreadsheet, and so like I didn't draft Zach Ertz on a Jaden Daniels team yesterday because I forgot to rank him, and so I like took Mason Taylor, and then I didn't realize Zach Ertz was there like 15 spots past ADP, and I was like, oh my god, like why would you? Oh, but I think I talked myself into Ben Sinnott to make up for it. Like, and that's like one thing I like to do, and I don't know if it's just my improv background, is like, how do I justify the pick that just happened? Like, so if we have this with Buffalo, right? Maybe those are the only two productive like wide receivers, and we're okay that we don't have Josh Allen. But I shouldn't take any other, Buffalo players at this point. But oh no, like I have a triple game stack. Yesterday at a draft, I had Saquon and James Cook, and I felt good about that. Like, oh, we're probably gonna have snow that week. You have the two like running backs who like had the most touchdowns last year. Like, I don't hate it. Even with the, I know people talk about the James Cook like Oh no, he's gonna hold out. He's there. It's harder for players to hold out. All right. So here, I think we might lean into, this might be a Justin Herbert. Maybe we get Jordan Love. Question is, when do I go for Herbert? I'll wait. He should, in theory, be there. Okay, so I would, and no, I'm not going to take Najee. I did on two teams yesterday do throw a 18th round underdog and 20th round underdog DraftKings Naeem Hines, who was hard to find on those platforms. All right, so we're gonna take that. All right, we got Zach Charbonnet. Oh no, I just realized that I double dipped Seattle. Oh goodness, that's another issue with just being like, oh, correlation. Let me queue up. But honestly, so I don't hate this as much as people like probably do. Because like basically I'm saying this backfield's gonna be good. They're gonna run the ball more, which is like what all of their moves in the offseason indicate. Zach Charbonnet like put up like a 35-point game last year in like relief one time. And like Kenneth Walker can do that well. So you tell me I have Saquon and guaranteed second slot roster usage, like on this team, like I don't have to worry about my starting roster in theory, right? And so like that's not a bad thing at all. Okay, we're gonna get Herbert. Every year is the year that he's gonna break out. But the thing is like we're not drafting him like that high. You know what I mean? Like this year, it feels like a lot of the quarterbacks are like very fairly priced, like almost too fair. Like the market's just like, eh. All right. Okay, looking at my DraftKings team, it's actually shaping up. Oh, and I'm on the clock. Cool. I just drafted another rookie. Yeah, so the DraftKings team is Josh Allen, RJ Harvey. This team is not going to worry about correlation because I keep forgetting it exists. And this is my first stream draft ever. So imagine me trying to do two. But like I said, we'll pop in, try to maybe land the ship once this when this underdog draft ends. Sorry if you hear barking in the back. There's their neighborhood crackhead dog, and it's been let out. We have a couple of dogs in the complex that just bark at everything, and their owners like don't care. But I'm not confrontational, and my dogs now are chill with it. When they first moved in, they were barking back, and that was like not fun because it create this chorus of puppies just howling. Now it's just the crackhead dogs. They're freaking out on the balcony because other people and animals exist. And my dog sometimes does too. So I can't judge too much. All right, looking at this team, like I said, we're not going to do Kincaid. Okay, we're kind of not really in correlation territory unless I want to start looking for some other players. And fine. Like what's nice here about the Rams, you got the Seahawks, right? So like you get like, what if the Seahawks are just like actually a good team, right? Like, if that happens, like, it's probably not true. But what if they're a better team than like the 27th quarterback? Like oftentimes in underdogs, we're kind of saying like this is like the team. So like the Seahawks, like I could add a Colts player here if I wanted to. I won't. All right, I'm gonna add. I have a lot of Tootin. Actually, Tootin. Okay. I just said I have my two offensive players secured. Okay, so we're gonna hope that we can get Algier with the next pick, and then I think we're good at running back, right? Oh my goodness. Oh, why did draft buy? I normally don't care about buys, but we only have five. Okay. Maybe we do six here, but it's at the end. Let's see. If I get Algier, I'm just gonna say that's what it is. I know a lot of people don't like you're not supposed to care about bye weeks in best ball, and it's a low priority. But like I said again earlier, like if everything has like let's just say bye weeks have a 0.0001% outcome, right? Or like effect on the outcome. We're also, as drafters, looking for 0.0001 outcome to be like the best out of hundreds of thousands of entries, right? So like if you could optimize for it, right, that is something you could optimize for. Also for correlation, if I wanted to, I could go for blue, but I've kind of not drafted him a lot, and with the news coming out of camp, I'm just gonna let him fall, and then maybe I'll pick up like Jaden Blue to me is like a August, like a person I drafted in August with my last like five drafts. Like I've been drafting this year pretty consistently throughout the summer, um, which I've enjoyed. It's made it. Last year, I got like really gung ho about it in August, and so it was like this. I've been kind of consistent on since like pretty much the draft, and so it's allowed me to kind of see how things have changed, but also allowed me to take it at a slower pace. I kind of like burnt myself out last year doing it like August. I was like and then I got in a bunch of slow drafts, and then I made the mistake of going on a vacation where I couldn't access both Underdog and DraftKings. Like their websites like weren't working at all because they weren't allowed in that state. And then like I was gone for a wedding for 4 days, and so all of those auto drafted teams, like I didn't realize that was going to happen, so I didn't set like a queue. So they like I had 40, 50 teams just like get destroyed. Um, not thankfully they weren't best ball mania teams, they were smaller contests, but then like last year I only really did well on underdog and best ball mania, probably because that was like the only draft contest that was kind of pure. Because I did some slow drafts last year for but I usually do strangely I do my volume through slow drafts, and then like these bigger drafts I usually do in this kind of setup where I can really focus, just because I think generally speaking, maybe not now when I've accidentally forced myself into two drafts. Okay, we're gonna take Bryce here. I'm not really talking about the draft as much, but last time I checked, I have zero viewers. So for evergreen content, just we're just gonna vibe. I'm totally fine also streaming no viewers. I think that's the biggest. People get scared about that. Like, oh no, no one's watching me. Okay, so can be content that lives on later. So like I said, we got Algier, so we're gonna stop at running back. Um, the theory is hopefully Algier can just get some points, week week 8. Hopefully Saquon he pops off that week. We'll see. I feel like I want to go 3 quarterback here, but then the problem is like, but I'm also happy with my yeah. We might go 3-5-7-3 here. I just kind of like it. You know what I'm saying? Is that wrong? Okay, I know we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna do it. Like I said earlier, especially with the like I have this game. I now have like super stacked, right? I have both quarterbacks. I know people say that's bad. And, yeah. Okay, so I want a Colts. Was there is a good Colts tight end here? Or if I could go back and maybe don't take Tootin. No, if I could go back, maybe I don't take Charbonnet, and then I could take DJ Giddens just because. And this is kind of going back to the correlation, right? The Colts correlate with both Jacksonville, so Tootin. So I guess we would still want that. If you don't have the Tootin, then you could get rid of a correlation. And the Colts also play. Is it the Rams? The Colts play another team. Um, who was it? Colts. Where are you? Oh, the Colts play the Seahawks, right? And so all of a sudden, like again, this is like if I got a Colt, um, then all of a sudden I'm playing as like if Seattle's not bad, if they're good, they're good enough. I'm definitely gonna take Elijah Royo in the 17th. He's been going in the 16th recently. And part of me wonders if that's just the right choice. Like, I really like doing this with like three. Like, if I'm doing three tight ends, I might as well do like I don't even care if they're like super late ranked, right? I haven't even ranked Conklin. I've been taking some Gatson, or I'm saying his name wrong. I've been taking him over Conklin, but I'm worried that's the wrong choice. So I'm gonna kind of lean into that. So um, yeah, let's just do this. Yeah, fuck it. It's sweet. It's round 16. I think sometimes people get too worried about that stuff. All right, so like this team, like so here are the tight end profiles, right? Which I think is kind of fun. You got Elijah Arroyo, rookie, right? And that's now our only correlated pass catching piece with Seattle. So we'll just say week 17, he's the dude. He catches, you know, uh, basically Charbonnet or Ken Walker, one of them. The running game's great, but then there's a couple stops at the one, and then Arroyo's the guy. Um, Sanders, second year player, really high, good prospect profile. Like, didn't do much because he was hurt last year, and I think people forgot he existed because of that. And then, like, he was not. He like it seemed like they wanted him to be more part of the offense towards the end. So we'll take Sanders. And so we have a rookie, we have a second year, and then we have Conklin potentially, who's been around forever, right? And so Conklin's probably a good steady Eddie kind of piece at the beginning of the year. And this is like, and like pretty much all of these players are obviously they're correlated. Obviously, I'm praying for a Seattle Carolina crazy game, but like if you told me, like, and then like I want you to think about this with Week 17 games, like you told me that at the end of this year, like Seattle, Carolina had the craziest Week 17 game, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Because like Seattle's always in weird games. That's just how it is. And the Panthers had like a bunch of crazy high scoring games last year, especially towards the end, like when Bryce was popping off, right? And this team is working because we're saying, hey, this team, if it works, is because Bryce is playing like second half Bryce, right? And the new addition of Tet is like the Tet on this like roster is really good. So yeah, we got lots of correlated pieces here. I think everyone has some correlation. Oh, someone took Conklin. Well, that's really freaking rude. After I hyped up, like, look at this cool profile I did. Fucker. Okay. Disley, you broke my heart last year. I could do Higby if I want a similar prospect profile. Not prospect. But if I want a similar profile, maybe that's what I do. It's the same thing. The same thing with the Rams is I keep taking Ferguson over Higby, and maybe that's wrong too. Like you can see, I don't have him ranked. So part of it is rookie love. Part of it is like I'm a Rams fan, as you can see, and I feel like Sean McVay wants 1 year for one of his tight ends to have like a Travis Kelsey, like I'm the best tight end like in the league by like a couple magnitudes like year. Like, man, Raiders, we could have had Bowers last year. Oh my god, Bowers and Puka. Oh, sorry. I dream about that. Okay, let's see if I can fix this DraftKings team. We'll see what I have first. Um, okay. Let me do my first. Actually, let's round out this team first. So we have a 3-5-7-3. One of my like I feel like all things being equal, kind of my optimal build, right? I start with a hero RB, and then I get another nice first tight end. So we get three quarterbacks: Herbert, Bryce, Darnold. I think all are pretty fairly priced. Start with Saquon. He falls to the fourth. I guess he's not falling if that's below his ADP, but we know what we mean. He was second pick for a while. We're shoring up Seattle's run game here. Then we have Tootin with some high upside rookies. So at least we have one high upside rookie on this team. That's always good. And running backs. I typically have been doing kind of the opposite where I'll have like maybe two stud running backs and then like four dart throw running backs. And um, Algier is a player I just always love. I love him in redraft, especially because when Bijan's out, you're like, he's the dude, and he's like a good player. He's like he had 1,000 yards as a rookie, and everyone's just like, screw you. Bijan's the new shiny toy. And then we got Lad McConkey. Like I said, I really like the wide receiver room and the way that's kind of built. You got these three rookies. You got Ted Golden, Trey Harris, but then you have two second year players, and then you just got like two steady Eddie, like Devonte Adams, if he's not hurt, he could have like there's a world where he has the most touchdowns of any wide receiver this year. I think I don't think he has the most like yards, but like Adams to me didn't show any signs of slowing down. And like I said, he had like a 200-yard receiving game last year. Like, not many people will ever do that in their career, and he did it at whatever age. He's different. He's a Hall of Famer. I feel differently about Hall of Famers. like, um, then we got an interesting tight end room. We have Arroyo and Sanders. Arroyo a bit early. Part of that is if I know I'm going to go three tight end build, I'm just going to take the three tight ends I want for the build. So we have Arroyo and Sanders, so a rookie again, and then we have Sanders second year hopeful breakout. I'm not too worried about Tommy Tremble, but maybe I should be. And then ending with Old Man Higby. So again, early season. Hopefully this goes up. Um, and yeah. Again, I know it's early with Arroyo. I've been drafting him a little bit, but I'm just worried Arroyo's gonna like get up to like the Mason Taylor range, and then I'm not gonna draft him. So let me do a little bit. And people even took Gatson. Like, man, why did you why did you take two? I kind of don't hate that, honestly, conceptually, but you don't have any correlation. Maybe you just like the Chargers, which is fine. I'm from LA. I get it. All right, I'm up. And okay. Okay. Now we're going to my DraftKings team. And like I said, this is going to be a hot mess because it basically auto drafted. And I decided I was going to focus on this the stream draft. And so I don't recommend this, but honestly, there's been a few times where like I thought I submitted to a couple of slow drafts and I did some autos. And if you get there early enough, you can save most drafts. You can land the plane, as they say. Here we go. All right, so again, let's look at this atrocity together. Let's look at the team. Though we'll look at the draft board. So we have Josh Allen, RJ Harvey. We got lots of running backs here. Oh my god. Yeah, it makes sense. Oh yeah, it makes sense. We have all the players that everyone's concerned is hurt. Uh, okay. Um. Okay. I took Caleb Johnson. Okay, I have a couple of Cleveland pieces. So I think if Cedric Tillman's there, I will do that. Okay. Now this is where is this gonna be like a Joe Flacco team? Oh no. Might be. Let's see. Our wide receiver room, I don't hate it. You got CD Lamb, Drake London, Rashi Rice, who I'd rather have later, but that's fine. Devonta Smith. That's a good that's a good like not a bad wide receiver room, right? Imagine Rashi Rice gets like two games. Like we're chilling. We're big chilling. Um and like any one of these four could be a top 12 wide receiver this year. Believe that. Running back, we have RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, so some rookie love. And then we got Aaron Jones, so old guy. He's not that old. He's not an old human, maybe an old player. Travis Etienne, which I don't love. Judkins, which I don't love for multiple reasons. Just rookies getting into trouble, and also like morally, I'm not opposed to like I will draft those kinds of players, but it just like I don't feel good about it. And like I thought about this last year. Last year, um, I took Jameis Winston on more best ball teams than I took Deshaun Watson, which is probably a really crazy thing to say. Deshaun was the starter, that they're paying a bunch of money, but I didn't think he would make it the whole year. Partially right, like he did it through injury, but he was playing so bad, right? And so, but it was also like, what if in the inverse world, like Watson's a smash. Like, would I feel good winning a $1.5 million with like him on my roster? Like, yeah, I'd like the money, but I wouldn't feel as good about it. It's like if we're already going for crazy outcomes, let me go for the crazy outcome where I'm also like You know, like hopefully that makes sense. Might take Stafford. Oh, what's this Q tag? This is new to me. Back soreness. Oh, his back is always sore because he's carrying every fucking team that he plays for. All right, we're gonna draft Stafford. Part of it is we're low on tight end, so we're gonna definitely we're gonna get one of the Rams tight ends. We'll see. Just maybe we might just do it by who's their latest. So we have a two. So we have Stafford and Allen. That kind of makes me want to go Shador then as our last quarterback if he's there in the 20th. So that's how I feel on DraftKings, even with like a Josh Allen team. As you saw, my Josh Allen team last year that made it to finals had Will Disley, or you may have not seen that. And not I mentioned Will Disley, Will Levis. There's too many Wills, and they both broke my heart. But I had Will Levis. Now, obviously, Will Levis was bad last year, but like in a world where Will Levis was good, that team would have been like super stacked because I had Calvin Ridley on that team as well. So it was just like even like a team that made finals and did well in finals will still have some misses. And I didn't have that many misses. You know, if you miss on 3 picks out of 20, and like the other ones are absolute smashes, like hell yeah. But let me take Sanders out of my queue because knowing me, I'll accidentally like draft him. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking it's so hard for me to not want to take Pat Bryant. Okay, it's just the comparisons. It's just I'm really bullish on the Broncos. Like last year, like I think Cortland Sutton is one of the most like underappreciated wide receivers. Like the year people forget this, but the year that Russell Wilson was there, or was he there too? I forget. It was all a blur. Everything's a blur and it's all made up. But like Sutton got a lot of really freaking cool touchdowns. Part of it was, Wilson just tossed it up with his moon ball and like let him do his thing. But like Sutton, like every year had not every year, but there's like a 5 week period. He had like a top five catch every week, and like we're just like, oh, he did it again. But we were so fixated on Russell that we're kind of ignoring that, and especially on a PPR site, like I don't know. But anyways, I have two Denver pieces anyway. So saying that the Denver we're buying the Denver rookies, right? Yeah, with this team. And keep in mind, like I said, the first bit of it was auto drafted. So the first yeah, the first pick I made was Tillman. So but honestly, with an auto drafted team like this, it's not okay. We have a lot of worries first. Okay. I know I said I was done at wide receiver, but like you have London Lamb and Smith, like how does that not get you through the first couple weeks? Even if I uke, even if like I mean you have yeah, we have Tillman who's like, oh god, I'm on the clock again. Okay. Um okay. We're just drafting the rookies. I'm fine with that. So that'll be our last running back. I tend to really like 3 7 7 3s on DraftKings. Part of it is like when you have like so many wide receivers, like how much are you helping yourself? I think last year I like looking at all my like teams. I remember like 1 week, like I looked at like all of my highest, like the highest scoring week I had from any team. I had one team last year that had 240 DraftKings points, which was I think more than the winner. Obviously, it was not week 17, but it was like week 13. It was maybe earlier, but it was like a week Taysom Hill popped off, and like I had one Jameis Winston team when Winston popped off, and it scored that with a zero at running back, and it just made me be like, oh, like even me hitting didn't feel good because I was just light on running back. So, um, some drafts that means more draft capital, but this draft, as you can see, like we have one, two, three, four. We have four rookie running backs, right? So like the bet on this team, like this team is going to start slow, we're gonna really hope that Josh Allen and Stafford start strong. You know, the good thing is like Ertz is our it probably starts fine as a tight end. Okay, so let's look at our tight ends. That Fryermuth fits, and I don't have many shares of him. It's so hard. I want to take Ferguson over, and then if we can end with Shador, then that works. Because like that's how I feel about Josh Allen, like three quarterback builds. Um, yeah, I think we take Fryermuth. I'm not happy about it, but like, what if Johnny gets hurt? What if like Conklin, and what if he has like a Conklin like relationship with Rogers? Like Conklin had some use like productive games. Like Pat Fryermuth could totally PPR scam his way to like somehow being like tight end, like an important tight end, like one of the weeks of playoffs. I already have the Cleveland, if I'm going for the Cleveland stack, might as well. If we want to like so for example, I was talking about earlier about dart throws, like this would be a team with like the Jacksonville, like I might look at Adonai Mitchell. Um, if I was looking for wide receiver, maybe I do like Whittington as like a dart throw too. But is that just like my Rams bias? But you did pick Stafford. And so if you have Stafford without Puka, like I know probably people wouldn't recommend that without Puka, but then like sorry, this is me game theorying it. Like what is most likely to happen with this team? And that's like what I think a lot of players don't think about when they're drafting. They just like draft players. But we're drafting teams, so you have to like think about it in in totality, right? You could have a bunch of great player takes and land them all and still like or land a lot of them and still not have a team that does even well in best ball because like you didn't stack the right weeks. Like I thought about this as a thought of experiment. Like if I knew all of like the best players from last year, like you told me like by average points per game, like that's not very helpful, right? I'd have Godwin, I have Rashi Rice who weren't there at the end of the year, right? Or you'd have players like who yeah, I'll take Ferguson. Man, why do I feel so compelled to take Shadur? And I don't like that. Or do I just take Joe and guarantee early season? Or maybe the premise again of this whole team is we have enough to start us out, right? ETN starts okay. That can make sense. White, um, I think White was actually a pick I made. Like I was able to see that. Um, like White's a really good backup pick in this because he's still going to have value even without injuries. And RJ Harvey will have value to start. So will Caleb. Like both of them like they're not going to be zeros week one. Like oh yeah, we have Aaron Jones. So like I feel good about running back. Wide receiver, do we feel good enough? Tillman should be fine early on. Smith, London, Lamb. So we're starting thin this year, but like that's also like there are a lot of players on this team because they're probably going to be, showers, not growers. Um, growers, not showers. I don't know. That's a weird analogy, but honestly, you gotta be using it more in the best ball streets. I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, do I want man? Can also take like Royals, but then we're having the same issue. See, my gut is like I shouldn't take another wide receiver unless they're gonna have early production. But the problem is all the wide receivers in this range I want to take won't have early production. So the reason I want to take Sanders here versus Joe Flacco is we have Josh Allen and and Stafford, right? So we have Stafford who's like the safest, like he'll get me like we're always gonna be the way I think about Stafford, we're always gonna have a usable weeks with him. Josh Allen, like sometimes, like it was very rare last year, but I've had him for the last few years in fantasy. And he'll have games where like other people are popping off for the team, so he might not be. I don't know if that's true anymore. Um, but if like what makes this team unique is going to be like, okay, we have the Cleveland, we have the Cleveland Pittsburgh game with this going on. Again, not as much correlation in this draft, but we did get some by accident. We got the Drake London. Actually, we got a lot of correlation. We got Drake London and the Rams, which I think I subconsciously knew that when I was taking them. Cleveland, I made the Pittsburgh and Cleveland decisions. Um, we honestly, this team is like super correlate. What the? That's so funny. Um, it's so funny that the previous draft I had two pieces of Buffalo's wide receiver room and no Josh Allen. This one I have an unstacked Josh Allen. But if it's fine. Like I think as long as you have some players stacked, and like Josh Allen is unique. Like any of the top four quarterbacks, I think if you have them unstacked, it's like I get it. You know what I mean? Like, like yeah, it's Jalen Hurts, it's Josh Allen, it's Jaden Daniels, it's Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a person I'm really trying to target because I realize I'm really underweight on him, and I don't feel good about that at all. So, um, yeah, so we're gonna stay. Or we're not gonna stay. We're gonna end the stream soon. But thank you for anyone who popped by. But let's look at our final team. Here's the draft board. I'm gonna get better at showing the draft board. I know that's prettier to look at as an audience, but like I said, this very first stream, and I had a lot of fun. Even if you weren't, if no one was here, I was just speaking myself. I was gonna do this draft anyway, right? Might as well vocalize my thoughts so someone knows them because I'm not gonna remember them in 10 minutes. So we start off with CD Lamb again. We were auto drafting. Like I think like the Harvey pick I made. I think the Smith and Harvey picks I made. Um, no, I made the Smith and Johnson pick, and then White, pretty much White on. I made the picks. Ertz, like I made like frantically with 5 seconds left, just seeing I needed a tight end, so I just picked the highest tight end that was there. That wasn't Kyle Pitts, um, and let's see, I'm trying to figure out. Strange. I don't know. It was like the highest one I saw. Maybe I'll scroll down. Who knows? Um, but Ertz early season production, right? So maybe I'm getting early season production for my two tight ends. That's the thing that no one was expecting. So yeah, I don't feel great about the tight end room, but we have three. Ertz is consistent. He was more consistent last year. Like he was a good pick last year. But let's go through this. So again, our quarterback room is Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, who he fell like 30. He fell like 30 spots in this draft. Yeah, he's ranked 142, and I got him at 175. Yeah, you're telling me like a quarterback who's won a Super Bowl and like still was productive last year, like and has like two players who wide receivers who draft in the top like 3 rounds. You're telling me he fell 30 spots and I get to take him? Sure, like that's fine. Um, Especially like so the reason he's questionable is because like the reason he fell in this draft probably is because of the questionable news and like Stafford's a player that everyone's like he's super injury and it's like Stafford will be on the field if his body will let him. He will like he's one of the few players I think could die playing football. Yeah, he's having back problems because he freaking broke his back in the middle of the Lions game, carrying them, and he still like won that game on a freaking like like last second touchdown. Like Stafford's just a dog. And like right, Stafford's a steady Eddie to Josh Allen's like boomer bust, even though again Josh Allen was very, very not bust last year. You got Pat Bryant, so and like this is the kind of team if this could survive until to the playoffs. Like we got some interesting players that no one wanted to touch, right? We got Rice, we got Junkins, which again I don't feel great about, but we got him at the 114, which is honestly the earliest I would draft him. So I don't feel as bad. I just saw it. And that's the thing about auto drafts is you can kind of scoop value. There are three players here. Ayuk, I don't know. Yeah, he fell 30. Like, so this team, honestly, auto drafting, I feel better about it now because then we got correlation. We got lots of correlation, right? We got the Josh Allen Smith. We have the Lamb Ertz down below. Obviously, we have the Rice. Who we have from Pat Bryant, and also I think we had RJ Hardy, Cleveland. We don't have any Chicago to go with Ayuk, but that's fine, and no Atlanta to go with the Rams. But that could just be a bet on, like, let's just say there's a world where one of the um like Kyren goes down or splits more time, and then like week 15 through 17, one of Adams or Puka is hurt, and all of a sudden Ferguson's like the guy, right? And that just feels like such a Sean McVay thing to do. I think sometimes being a Rams fan helps me a lot in these drafts because, like, I think there's a certain way McVay thinks, but it also sometimes hurts me because I think too much in the way that I think he's going to think, which was my issue last year. I drafted a bunch of Blake Corum, but I also drafted a bunch of Kyron Williams, and I was like, oh, they're gonna. I thought it was gonna be a switch kind of situation. It's like the year that they had Cam Akers and traded him away. Like Cam Akers was good the first couple of games, then like had one bad game, then they traded him because of vibes and lots of other reasons. But I feel like Kyron's on thin ice. Just because he had some really bad fumbles last year in really key situation. Like as a Rams fan and not a fantasy player, as a Rams fan, Kyron like made me sad last year. Whereas like the year before, he made me like the years before he made me super happy. So, but yeah, so thank you all for popping by. Again, hopefully those tools that I mentioned, I will put them in the Discord. Not the Discord. There is no Discord. But the tools that I mentioned, I will put them in the description for this video. So if you want to use them yourself to implement some of these strategies, again, these strategies helped me win about 10 grand last year when you consider all the things together. So thank y'all. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.